So how do you spell science again? A quick dive into what makes a scientific Bible, blah 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 blah. Why should you care? Well, curiosity, and I mean really curiosity. It's also learning how to find information about chronic illnesses that a lot of us in the community have, as well as just maybe trying to understand um, um, some sociologic subject that you wanted to learn more about. And finally, like art, science could be archive, and compared to the former, the latter can be measured. So, why am I qualified? Well, how am I qualified to tell you this? I'm technically qualified with an asterisk. I'm not an expert. I'm just a nurse student. And I'm biased because I'm French. What I mean by that is that while I didn't see any difference between English written papers and French written papers, my classes and my studies may have some different expectation from the norm than the one from our countries, from your countries. The last thing I want to say is that I want to make this information more accessible, and this is why I'm presenting to all of you today. I'm Captain Hope, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm the host of Echoes of Hope. So, what's inside the magic paper? Titles, abstract, introduction, method section, result, and discussion. All of that I will treat little by little so we can all understand why all of them are important for what they are. And we'll play a little game. How do you read a scientific paper anyway? I'll use self-creation of other than human identities, an ethnographic analysis of identity labels in the Alter-Human community on Tumblr. And here's the link. So, why am I putting emphasis on the title? Hate. Let me tell you how much I hate looking for papers. When you write a title, you need to be precise. You need to have the keywords so that people can know what is going to be in your papers. For example, in the article that we're going to use, we have different keywords. The first being self-creation, the other being other than human identities, the third one being an ethnographic, fourth one an analysis of then our subject, identity labels, or demographic in the alter-human community, and or and our zone of research, Tumblr. What if, when you read a title or even just a paper, you don't understand something? Well, DuckDuckGo is your friend. For example, in ethnography, um, I'm going to share form of quality research that seeks to understand the cultural experience that encompasses and are reflected within the trace, practices, network, and system of social media. So now, what is an abstract? Well, an abstract is basically a summary. In that case, it makes it easier for people to understand the whole paper. It also has keyword at the end, so it's easier to find in your in usually your library that has your paper, and it's easier then to find what you're looking for. In this case, this is a big block of text, yes. However, in the abstracts, I see how my paper is constructed. In yellow, I'm going to have it's going to say what is my demographic, what is my subject of research, where am I going to say, where am I going to look for, and in what am I going to discuss. In green, you're going to have when it happened, what the study was focused on, and when it was completed. In blue, you're going to have what is going to be the result of your research. In this case, the research was conducted on 200 Tumblr blogs, and in pink, you see what is going to be called the oh, I forgot the name. what is going to be called a discussion, which is the interpretation you have from your research. As in, you see the keywords at the end is keywords so that it's easier to look for your paper, kind of like tags in AO3. So what do I need after my abstract? So I summarize my article. It's usually, abstract is usually the last thing you write when you write your paper. So I start my paper. I have an introduction. What do I put in my introduction? Well, I put the defining main concept in the study. For example, what is all too human? All too human is an umbrella term for any experience that is beyond the scope of what is traditionally considered being human. What is social interactionism? What is social interactionism? What is how does Tumblr work? Tag are crucial of form of communication of Tumblr, and and explaining how the demographic, what the demographic is, and what the tools, and what is the place that we're going to study. Now, once you define your term, and once you define your different concepts, there is now going to be the method you're going to use to do your analysis. So methodology. They are extremely varied depending on the field. For example, if you have a studies that is focused on knowing how many people own a dishwasher, you're going to have what's called a quantitative questionnaire. You're going to go to people saying, hello, I'm doing a research. I would like to know, do you own a dishwasher? And that's going to be quantitative. In that case, the study that we're using is a qualitative questionnaire. It's asked, okay, so in my group of subjects, what qualities do they have? Like, it's not the question of how many dishwasher do you have. The question is, what kind of dishwasher do you have? Or how do you do your laundry? Or what time of the day do you do your laundry? What way? Again, it's a difference between quantitative and qualitative. There's also testing for more on-brand science that you could think of. For example, if you think physics, if you think chemistry, those are more testing. For example, you say, okay, we're going to use this bottle of this molecule with this molecule. We're gonna mix it for each time on this condition, this pressure, this temperature. Again, methodology extremely varied depending on the field. In this case, for this reason, this study examines social groups such as entities may belong to throughout their usage of labels in self-introduction section of their blog. And how is the method used? What time was it done? What was inspected? In this case, Tumblr blogs, and specifically, the beginning information on your Tumblr blog saying, other kin, all of the little information that you put on the beginning of their Tumblr blog. For this research, the person looked at 200 Tumblr blog and that had the other kin tag and look at their introduction post. Now, you got all of your data. You have raw data. You have an Excel sheet. You need to translate those data into a result. And here's the thing. You do not start analyzing the data yet. What you do is that you mostly do pretty graphics, as well as description of the graphic with more alt note disguised as context. What I mean by that is that you make, for example, pretty tables, which explain here's my data, here's the frequency, here's the percentage, and it's like image idea in the sense that once you did your table, you describe in text the table and highlight the things that are of notes. And you do not start analyzing the data yet. It comes in the next section, which is discussion. Discussion is with your result answers, you try to answer the question that you ask yourself in the introduction. In the introduction of this paper, it was uh, what is how do people in the other community identify themselves, and is there any link with minority groups? And that's where the big word come in discussion, which is interpretation. You use your result and you explain what you can interpret through theories, through data, etc., etc. You also, in the discussion, once you did your interpretation, you highlight the limitation and the strength of your method applied. For example, in in this research, they said that while their method was very useful to understand and to have an idea, a broader idea of what the other kin community is, the limitation is the number of blogs that they can visit and how accurate the intro post is, because they did not check the other people, the other users, other posts. So they may like context, they may like information, and maybe the information is not updated to today. On finally, discussion, you usually end on potential future research of the time of the subject, of the type of the subject. I did not write that well. For example, in this research, they said we could do more discussion about how people form communities. How do people find their label? How do people find all of those ideas? They open on a possible other future research. Now, do we use conclusion? Not really. They're optional. I legit don't know. It's like 1 a.m. while I'm doing this PowerPoint, and from what I look for this morning, really they're not in our French one, but I do see a few in English papers. So technically, the abstract already serve as a summary, and the discussion is already in itself a conclusion. So depends on probably depends on the school, and that's it. Go write, go read. Once you have an idea of how it's structured, you can go right ahead. Once you understand how a research paper is made, it's once you understand how to read it, and while you might lack the specific language for it, DuckDuckGo is your friend. Go look for it. Dictionaries are here. You can read abstract, you can try to look, you can try to understand, and you'll have something to read. And another thing that a wise person said, what's worse than writing is not writing. So someone who was right about this in the 20 something was right, so go right ahead. Again, the what I saw from the alter human community is how diverse their art is. And while writing this while writing this panel, I also saw a few papers about alter humanity, and I was like blown away by the fact that it existed. So I am here to tell you, go look, tap alter humanity, and tap analysis papers, and they exist. They exist because all of you put traces of your existence on the internet, and now they are written in papers that are being saved and archived, and that's awesome. So please go right ahead. And I want to thank you for your time, for the problem with Discord and everything, and I will be more happy to hear your question. And that's it. And I was fast. Oops. All right. Uh, do any of you have questions? Yeah, that's the thing. Usually, I'll tell you this. Writing my own paper has been hell, but it's again. I really wanted to highlight the fact that the Alto Human community, while it's very focused on art and preserving and archiving, I want to also share one part of archiving, which is scientific research. How you can, um, even though it's very codified, um, I wanted to highlight the fact that um, that art make sure that you exist, but that also science can see you for who you are. Even though when you write your paper, you have to take a lot of biases into account, especially when you're thinking about um, social papers, and that they. I'm so sorry for the noise outside, and that there is writer out there who wrote about all of us. Um, I'll actually let me show you something. So while I was looking for the paper, I actually saw that House of Chimera was mentioned in the paper. Um, Let me show you. Um, blah blah blah. Microlabel, xenogender, and trans species, phasmorph, human. Here we go. This change was a consequence of a discussion whether otherkin can function as a general term for all other than human identity. House of Chimeras 2021. And that's what I mean. All of the work that I see about archiving, making sure that your traces exist, actually are reflected in the papers. People that are interested, that that looks at our community with such wide eyes and say, "Oh, here, they're traces. You can look at this, and it says this. Can you imagine how they work? That's awesome." It's a reason don't get super overwhelmed by it at all. Speaking as someone with a giant pool of data to work through in an ultra human study lol, I'm afraid of overwhelming people with numbers, or is it better to be just like, screw it, take my numbers, it represents you? Okay, actually, I'm going to share something that I have been working with. So, um, uh, when you're working with a lot of numbers, so you want your people to understand. You want people to understand how what they see. So, for example, in your paper, so I'm gonna use this once again. You have different way of presenting it. For example, if you want to present a ratio between do, doesn't, does something, you, for example, between three things, you usually present them in a cheese wheel. Well, if you have, for example, something that has more information, a table may be more interesting because you have, for example, the name, and then you can have your numbers. And for example, for your percentages, usually you add the little percentage sign just on the side. Um, for and that's why, well, okay, because paper are just numbers are just a lot, so there it depends on how you want to present it. I would say if you have a lot of if you have a lot of individual data, I would say like I would say table, so people can, go Control F and actually research what they want to check for. But you can also use you could also use like a cheese wheel or those little, how do you call those graphics, um those type of chart to. But the problem is that usually your text will be squeezed like on the end. So again, depends on how you want to present it. Try different ideas, or maybe try to, you know, say for this is this, for this is this, for this is it. Do different depend like saying, okay, horror media, this is what we have. Chill media, video game, fiction. Maybe try to do short of sub short. But I know this is a lot of information to take in and a lot of crunching the numbers. But yes, but yeah, that's that's what I was most excited about, showing you that you preserving your art and all of you doing the research and trying to preserve and archive everything actually is here. There is people who see this. There is curious people who look for it, and there is research about it. Yes, spreadsheets. Do is there any more questions or just talking? Hydration. Uh, Wish I could talk, but alas, I'm on the train. I will be here for the next 3 hours. Oh, that's so sad. That's very sad, puppy. Terrible. Horrible. Media librarian recommendation, though I'm pretty sure the Alta Human Archive use it too, but I have been recommending this to people for ages. Bibliographies are hard, and I keep losing all of the paper I find. Zotero, everyone get into using Zotero always. I'll check it out. I'll look for it. Okay. That's Thank you very much, Nara. Good way to save article you find. Alright, noted. Um I also use Zotero, can't recommend it enough. Noted. Um Now I know I finished really early, so uh I don't know if I end the panel right here and leave people to be, or if we can continue to chat. I don't know. You can edit early if you set a discussion thread and forum for free. Honestly, I'm getting a bit tired, and I think it's the nerve coming down. So I'll end it here. I'll do a little forum for if people want to ask question or have or want to complete this. So yeah, thank you very much for your time. It was wonderful to show you this. Um, and I'll see you in chat. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye.